Hello friends, Jackie Eicher here, and this is Reading Corner. I am reading one of my all-time favorite books, Morning Girl by Dorris, and we're on chapter 4. In this book, the chapters back and forth between Starboy, the brother, and Morning Girl, the sister. Chapter 4 is Starboy. I won't go home. I've been hiding in these rocks all day. I didn't come out when I heard Morning Girl call my name, even though she walked very close to where I crouched. I made myself look like a rock and didn't move. I shut my eyes, stopped breathing. I thought about how the sun warmed my surface, making shadows around all the parts where I stuck out. I thought how good it would feel when the waves splashed high enough to sprinkle drops of water onto my skin. I hoped that some birds might land on my back, but then I remembered how sharp their claws are. And I hoped that the birds would find another rock instead. My sister passed by without noticing me because she was searching for a human boy who might want to eat his midday meal, not for a stone who didn't need food, who didn't need to sleep under a roof, who had no worries that he had made a mistake. The afternoon went by, and I thought about everything a rock could think. Wind, rain, the things that could crawl out of the night and run across my face. I was glad I didn't have to drink because then I'd be thirsty. I wondered if the other rocks all around me had made mistakes too. In a very low voice, I asked them. But even though I listened as a rock listens and not as a boy listens, I heard no answer. Maybe they were afraid to speak. Maybe they were waiting to see what kind of rock I turned out to be. Maybe they heard my mother's footsteps before I did. I barely opened one eye so narrowly that the light flashed the way it does when the sun strikes against shallow water. It was strange to watch my mother when she didn't know I was there. So strange that I almost forgot my mother was my mother. To a rock, she was just a small woman who sat looking out to sea, whose hair blew away from her face with every breeze, whose fingers worked the dry grasses in her lap like into a tight coil, who spoke her thoughts aloud because she had no idea anyone was listening. Where could Starboy have gone? She wondered to herself. Everyone is so worried that he has sailed to another island or flown high into the air to join those stars who gave him his beautiful name. She sighed, waited for a moment, then continued. She was close enough that I could have touched her if my arms had turned back into arms, and I became a human once more. But Starboy would not leave without saying goodbye, my mother decided. Even if he had made a mistake, even if he had played in his father's canoe and then forgotten to pull it up high enough on the beach so that the tide would not carry it away, he would know that we would miss him too much if he disappeared. I closed my eye and concentrated on being a rock. I sank so deep into the ground that no digging stick could roll me from my hole. I became so hard that no tree or bush could take root on my surface. I slowed my thoughts until the quietness of the earth wrapped me in its heavy cotton. Somewhere far, far away from where I was, I heard my mother stir and stand up. I didn't feel her hand soft against my foot as she searched for more grass to weave. I wondered if she would cry out in the night for me as she did once for the new sister who had not arrived after all. If she did, I would come back, but not until. After my mother left, I passed another long, long time by myself. There was nothing to think about except the cramps in my knees where they bent to fit underneath me. I licked my lips to see if any dew had formed, and I twitched so quickly when a buzzing insect of some kind landed near my ear that if people were watching, they'd think their eyes were playing tricks. I became heavy, solid enough to anchor any boat, no matter how strong the ocean pulled. There are things I noticed as a rock that I never realized as a boy. I could feel the movement of a shadow on my body as the sun slid across the sky. There was a line that divided heat from cold or cool, which very slowly crept up my leg, across my back, onto my cheek. I could smell the skin of my arm, warm and sweet and like nothing else in the world. I could count my teeth with the tip of my tongue, find the silent crickets that called to each other from each of my wrists. I got to know myself as a rock even better than I had known myself as a person. One part at a time, with no rushing and nothing to make me hurry past something important. By the hour that the sky turned red, I had learned a great deal that I would not forget. That's when I heard my father coming. He stopped almost exactly where my mother had sat and hunched down as he often does when he's thinking. How fortunate that my wife's brother, Sharptooth, found my canoe, my father said to himself. How fortunate that there was no damage and that it is now once again safely pulled far up onto the beach. How relieved my son, Starboy, would be to know that all turned out so well. But how can I inform him? I changed from being a rock to being an ear, a huge ear that could hear every word. But even if the canoe had floated away, even if it had vanished beneath the waves, it is only a canoe, my father continued. It can be replaced with a few days' work, especially if I have a strong son to help me hollow it out. But nothing can replace a son. Not even a new child that might someday come. Not even a good daughter who was lonely for her brother all day, who was afraid that he was hungry or thirsty or didn't know how to come home. I tried to imagine Morning Girl worrying about me. It was difficult. When Morning Girl told me she had been careless with my canoe, my father said, I was very annoyed. But it wasn't her, I shouted. My father leapt to his feet, looked in every direction. Starboy? Starboy? I unfolded myself, became my father's son again because I heard the pleasure in his voice. Already I could see my mother's face when I walked through the door to our house, and behind her, my sister's eyes are bright. Friends, we're going to save chapter 5, which is Morning Girl, for next time. I hope that you're enjoying the story. I love it every time I read it. Until next time, goodbye.